How's it going, everyone? Today we're going to do our second weekly roundup of the MMO sphere with things that have occurred within the last week regarding various different MMOs. Obviously, the biggest and most anticipated one for many of you was Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV launched with its Endwalker expansion for early access. The official release of it does begin on December 7th. However, most people bought the game early and started playing with the early access. For the most part, it has been a resounding success, but there have been some issues that have arisen with it, mostly regarding server logins and characters not being able to be accessed with certain functions with the cross-world interactions. But it's mostly congestion regarding server logins, as well as a few login errors that have occurred as well. Many of you know the error 2002 and the errors 5006, 5003, and 4004. A lot of these have to do with lobby login issues with server capacity, as well as there being too many people in queue. And so it causes a timeout and a disconnect on this internet connection. Also, though, if you are using a wireless connection, that can contribute to your disconnects that you're running into with these errors. So if you have the ability to hardwire in with an Ethernet cable, do so, and that should hopefully stabilize your connection a bit more and give you a better opportunity of getting in to the servers. But even if you do connect, there is still a lengthy queue that is going on. However, we are now into the weekday, so I expect some of the queues will lighten up throughout the weekday, since people will be back at work or back in school for this time being. But overall, during the weekend for early access, with it being the launch, there were a lot of queues, and anybody who wasn't expecting queues, I don't know what to tell you at this point. You should have been expecting queues. The devs told you to expect queues and issues to arise. So if you're getting upset about it, I'm not sure what to tell you, because this should have all been within the expectations, because it's not the first time this has happened with MMOs, and the developers themselves told you to expect this to happen. So if you weren't expecting this, sorry. Like, that's pretty much what it comes down to with that. They are giving people compensation for it, though. So if you have been afflicted by this, you are going to get an additional 7 days on your subscription for free, and they will extend that time or give additional compensation, assuming these issues that we're currently dealing with do continue to occur as time goes on with the release of the game following the official release. If these continue to go on for an extended period of time, they will continue to add additional compensation appropriately based on how long the issues persist. But I expect it won't be too much longer. Everybody's logging in for the first time, leveling their new characters, trying to experience everything first. But overall, our time in the game, our first 2 days with the game, incredible. Once I was in the game, I did not have any issues in game. I didn't run into any bugs, disconnects, issues with stories or quests. None of that. I personally did not run into any of that, but it was, whoa, what a whirlwind of a first start of the game. What an incredible start to the story for Endwalker. I'm not going to give anything away, but holy moly, I was not expecting them to start off the game with such a resoundingly impactful event to take place. We're only level 84 here. You can see it on the page. Level 84 monk. We're not even halfway to 90 yet, and we've put a good 15 to 20 hours in the 2 days that we've played, and that's just from doing, taking our time, doing the main story quest. And that's the thing that I've really loved about Final Fantasy, is that there is no rush to get to max level or to do certain activities. There's no time gated events or things that require you to complete them in a certain amount of time. You really do get to just take your time and enjoy the game for what it is and how it's presented. And that's something that I have absolutely taken advantage of. And I've really been able to enjoy the game, watching all the cutscenes and really throwing myself into the story. And it has been a true enjoyment. So hopefully many of you do the same, and you play the game, you want to play the game the way you want to play it. If that means rushing through it, by all means do it. If it means taking your time and playing multiple classes and going through the story slowly, that's fantastic too. Play this game the way you want to play it. For you PvPers out there, stay tuned. 6.1 is expected to come with a giant overhaul to the PvP systems. They're going to be changing some things with the jobs, and as well as the limit break abilities for each of the classes as well. So definitely keep your eyes peeled on that for 6.1 in the future. If you are a PvP player, that might be something that draws you into the game if it's been something that's held you back all this time. Moving on from there, though, we have Lost Ark. Lost Ark made a big news last week. They actually announced that the Sorceress is coming to the Western release of the game on the release. It is going to be there at the beginning, but it comes at a price. If you are a Summoner player, Summoner is no longer going to be in the start of the game. A couple things about this. There have been some bugs that have arisen recently on the Korean and Russian clients with the Summoner regarding the AI of the pets with their pathing or functionality of some of their skills. And so some people are, speculating that that is the reason behind why they are taking Summoner out, is so that those things can be fixed. And instead, they're going to put Sorceress in its place. I also think some of it has to do with the fact that they are staying locked into 15 classes, and NA and EU were begging and pleading and demanding Sorceress all this time. They really wanted Sorceress. They wanted that traditional mage. And, I'm sure AGS was like, sure, we'll give you Sorceress, but in exchange, we're taking Summoner from you. Don't be greedy. You're going to get what you're going to get. They're sticking to 15 classes. We're not getting additional classes, you guys. Be happy that we're getting what we're getting. We're getting the most recent class to be released in Korea. This class isn't out in Russia yet. This class will release in Russia on December 22nd. So if you are interested in playing Sorceress before the release of the NA and EU version, definitely jump on the Russian version of the game starting on December 22nd. That will be when the Sorceress releases there. It is very accessible to play the Russian client. There's no region lock on making an account. You will need a VPN for playing the game, though. So overall, though, very easy to get set up and get into. But yeah, so the Sorceress class is coming. They even did the Heroes of Archesia little videos that they've been doing for the classes going forward. And, they talk about the range of classes, the gender locks, and, what their plans are going forward. And, they wanted to provide some of the newer classes first to people before introducing some of the older classes. So they wanted to have a nice variety of old and new classes for players to experience and help draw in people to, witness ArcheAge, not ArcheAge, Lost Ark. ArcheAge is the next thing we're talking about here. But, Lost Ark is a very anticipated game. And I do think Sorceress will fit that much more traditional mage role that a lot of people look forward to with MMOs. And so I do think overall this will have a much more positive impact on the starting audience for Lost Ark with drawing in players. So we'll see how that shapes up. All I know is that our PvP ladder is going to be so different from every other region, with no Destroyer, no Lance Master, no Reaper, no Arcana, no Summoner. All these classes that are super annoying are not going to be present. Instead, we're going to see gunslingers and bladers all over the place. There's going to be so many blades and gunslingers in our PvP ladder. It's going to be really interesting. And now Sorceresses, I imagine there will be a lot of Sorceresses, since that will be the only mage DPS that is going to exist. So it's going to be a very interesting PvP ladder for the NA and EU regions. Moving on from there, from one Korean MMO to the next, ArcheAge. ArcheAge is now officially fully under Kakao. Kakao has a lot of unfricking to do with all of the fricking fricks that Gamago and Tryon have done over the years. Unfortunately, ArcheAge right now, it is plagued with a slew of bugs and issues with, that are the results of its predecessor's management with the game. Throughout all the years of ArcheAge's existence, there have always been a plethora of bugs and exploits that have existed and have been known about, but never addressed and taken care of. Some of those bugs, very quickly have been listed as a known list of bugs here. There are a bunch of bugs that do currently exist. Some of these are nothing. They have zero influence on anything regarding the game and how they function. They're just, standard general bugs. But there is a bunch of bugs and issues that do exist with the game. However, they have made it aware that these are issues. And so, I think a lot of things are going to, with Kakao, are going to have to do with how they manage the game going forward. Overall, people seem to be currently very positive with how Kakao has been managing the game since they've taken over with this initial fresh start. So we'll see how that persists going forward long term. You know, right now, a lot of people are playing Unchained for free. We'll see how that player base holds up once people's free gameplay time runs out and they now are forced to subscribe to the game. But you know, they've made some good changes. There have been some interesting changes. There is a lot that they have to do, though, and they need to be careful. They've made some changes based on player feedback, and it's good that they are looking at player feedback and making changes based on player feedback, but they have to be careful not to give in too much to every demand of the player base, because then that becomes the expectation of the player base. And if they do reach a point where there are certain things where they do want to be adamant about not changing based on what the player base wants, because of its its design purpose, then that's when they'll be met with a lot of backlash. So I do think they need to find a good balance of the give and take with the community. But right now, some of the changes that they've made that they were originally going to implement that were changed based on feedback have been good. The two biggest ones being the fresh start is currently on a gated environment, with the first month being set to T3 max. That's a decently high rank, but that's epic haram. But then the next month in January, it'll move up to T4, and that's actually a pretty big increase for a lot of things with the gear. A lot of it, though, is going to come down to the gems. There is no restriction on the gems at the moment, and so we are going to see probably full T3 gems by the end of the first month for a lot of people. I think again, a lot of this is going to come down to how Kakao manages a lot of the RMT that goes on, because the things with ArcheAge have not necessarily always been the monetization through the company, but it's been the amount of RMT that exists and plagues the game with gold buying, and how much that has influence on player power. And I think, there's going to be a lot of players out there looking to buy gold to expedite their gem progression for gear. People being able to be full T3 gems is very big, and that has a lot of power influence on people's character powers. So like I said, a lot of this looks to be how Kakao is going to manage things going forward. I think that they really do want to set a standard, a rapport with the community going forward, because they are in charge of ArcheAge 2, and they want to set a foundation to build off of going into ArcheAge 2. So, we'll see how things go for the future of the game overall. But for me personally, I'm just not interested in doing another fresh start that's focused around Haram. Haram is not a gear system that I enjoy. It's not one that I find fun or engaging gameplay wise. So, just wasn't really interested in doing that again for the third time, fourth time, however many fresh starts it's been since the Unchained release. But, we'll see how it all shapes up in the long haul for those of you that are interested in it. And then Warframe. Warframe is coming with one of its largest expansions, particularly story-wise, December 15th. Warframe is a little bit of a MMO light type experience. It has a lot of MMO elements to it, but it also has a lot of things that make it more of a RPG experience. So, it has some open world areas where you can see other people, and some hubs with a lot of other players as well. But for the most part, a lot of the gameplay elements are 1 to 4 player size experiences. So, we call it a little bit of an MMO light. It's a little bit of that hybrid in between state of an MMO and an RPG shooter experience. But, it's coming with new playable characters, a new Tenno, a very, lengthy cinematic main quest, as well as new weapons and customizations and accessories with the arsenal. And there's a lot that they're looking to implement with this upcoming update. Things that you will need in order to be prepared for this update: you will need a railjack, and you will need a necromech. So if you have not gotten those yet, make sure that you are getting those prepared right now, leading up into this next update, if you are looking to be jumping into it. That new Tenno is actually called Caliban, the Sentient Warframe. And so we'll just talk about its abilities real quickly for you guys, for those of you who are unaware of it. Razor Gyre, become a spinning vortex of death, hold fire to accelerate the maelstrom, increasing damage, and then target an enemy to dash forward toward them. Hitting enemies inflicted the Sentient Wrath creates a destructive blast. Sentient Wrath smash the ground, sending out a wave of destruction. Those not killed by the initial burst are helplessly lifted into the air, where they continue to suffer damage for a short time. Right? So a little combo skill here, right? So it says here, hitting enemies inflicted with Sentient Wrath creates a destructive blast. So I'm assuming if you hit the enemies while they are currently being lifted in the air from Sentient Wrath, will cause them to explode with a little destructive blast. Lethal Progeny, call on Caliban's sentient aspect to produce up to 3 Conculist comrades to fight by his side and repair shields when not in combat. And Fusion Strike, converge 3 streams of raw energy upon a single point, causing a massive reactive blast. The fallout from the blast will strip the armor from all enemies that touch it. And then its passive is Adaptive Armor. And from what I've understood from a lot of people, this is actually a very impactful passive because it says allies within affinity range gain increased resistance to the types of damage they are currently taking. The reason why this isn't such a big deal as a passive is because this is a passive that you can get through the card system and how you build your Tenno, but this is something that comes by default on this Warframe. And so this opens up another option for you to build without having to take the card for it and build for it. And so this opens up a little bit more flexibility for some people's builds. So it's going to be interesting to see how this Warframe actually shapes up and how powerful this one actually is compared to the deck version of it. So definitely a lot of things looking forward to coming up with the in the game MMO sphere. There's a lot of games coming out, a lot of updates coming. There's a lot more coming next year as well, with Monster Hunter Rise and Lost Ark and Guild Wars 2 expansion, and then there's Elden Ring. There's a lot of games coming, and there's a lot of games currently that we're looking forward to. Right alongside Warframe is going to be SWTOR. So we're probably going to be looking to set some days where we play Warframe, where we play SWTOR, where we play Final Fantasy, and where we play Lost Ark on the Russian client for you guys. So overall, there's a lot of content that's going to be coming, a lot of diverse content coming to this channel here in the near future. So we are going to be doing these weekly roundups every Monday around noon EST. So if you enjoy the content, definitely be sure to drop on by then. If you enjoyed this video, definitely be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching. That ends this week's roundup of the MMO news. Have a good one.